powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast on a happy hour Friday. Adam Caplan is here. And, of course, we have another qualifier. We want to congratulate this hour, Joe in Galloway. We'll see Joe over at our Eagles draft party April 27th. The draft is coming. By the way, the guy who's drafting those players, Howie Roseman, ranked number 1 as the best GM in football by NFL.com. He edges out Brett Veach of the Kansas City Chiefs, Duke Tobin of the Cincinnati Bengals. What kind of world are we living in where Cincinnati has a top executive in the NFL? A top executive, a top NFL mind is Adam Caplan, and he is back with us here for another edition of Football at 4 on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. What's going on, Adam?
Mike, I didn't know about that, Paul. So, look, Howie is top 3, 2 Super Bowl appearances in 5 years with 2 different head coaches and 2 different starting quarterbacks. That's incredible. You want to give the coaches credit, but maybe, I wouldn't say maybe. He's probably the best in free agency. It's just remarkable how good of a job he does. Now, sometimes to cover up misses but in the draft, but you got to look at the results. And Howie, since he's come back, Mike, in 2016 after he was reassigned in 2015, he's done a great job of rebuilding his career. It's one of the all-time jobs that we've seen. He's not perfect, we know. Draft, he still needs a lot of work. It's been better the last 2 years. We still need to see more out of the last 2 classes, but the early returns are good, and you feel good about that because he's staying more onto the board, Mike, and that was always his problem. 2020 was really that draft where he took Rager over Jefferson, where there were people in the building had Jefferson over Rager, and you don't want to do that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see. You mentioned Brett Veach was number 2. I think it's interesting because when they did these rankings, they did give the teams that have the coach GM kind of attached at the hip, like Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott. They ranked them together. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco, Les Snead, Sean McVay in LA. They did not include Andy Reid. I thought Andy had a lot to do with that roster out there.
In fact, he brought Brett in from Philly, so he basically, as I understand it, more or less has handed over personnel to Brett. Unless he objects, Andy will. Look, the way it works is Brett Veach is going to get players Andy wants for his offensive defensive schemes. But yeah, and push comes to shove, he relies on Brett to do it. As I understand it, late in Andy's tenure, he kind of handed everything off to Howie. Though Andy would have final say, so to speak, or he'd control, he handed off a lot of responsibilities to Howie because he didn't want all that. He wanted it early on, but as he saw it, to have full personnel control and be a head coach who's going to call the plays, I'm like, that is just too much. And we've seen this over the years now. Coaches want input, but they don't want to do everything.
All right, Adam. Speaking of the draft, he's that being Howie Roseman. You mentioned his draft history. Well, this is going to be a difficult one right now anyway. Kind of give a look back to the listeners anyway of just how many picks and where those picks are because there's a big hole in the middle, which is an area where Howie has done a pretty good job.
Yeah, so on our Thursday show that we just did, we did kind of a reset of where we're at with 2 weeks to go. We're now under the 2-week mark. So, and what has been, I don't want to say it's tradition, but every so often the Eagles just don't have a lot of picks. In 2018, they only had 5 picks, but they nailed all of them. This year, they've got 4 picks, Mike, in the top 94. Then they don't pick to the 219th pick, the 7th round. So they don't have a pick in the 4th, 5th, or 6th rounds, which is why a lot of fans think they'll trade down. Of course, you got to find a trade partner. It's easier said than done. But so they've got the 10th, obviously the 30th, the 62nd, and the 94th, and then they have 2 7s. So they really have to nail these first 4 picks. We know what their needs are for now and the future, but more for the future. 3 technique. They need someone to replace Fletcher Cox. They're in dire need of young safeties who could potentially start down the line. They don't have them. They see Blankenship as a really good third. They need another DM. They need a guard, as we talked about in the show that we did Thursday. Need another edge rusher. Need a third outside corner at least to compete and then eventually start down the road. They don't have to do that in this draft. The secondary needs are outside corner, slot receiver. That some people think it's a major need. I wouldn't go that far. Do they need it? Yes. They need wide receiver depth, inside linebacker depth, and they need either a veteran swing tackle or maybe someone, Mike, who could come in and compete for that backup left, right tackle, and guard role.
All right, let's look at you guys over at Inside the Birds. Great podcast this week. For those of you out there who are looking for some more Eagles content, check out the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, Adam and Jeff Mosher do a great job. Who are some of the first down grades that you're getting? How many first-round players do you guys have in this draft?
All right, so, Mike, we do this annually. We kind of hint at it. We give you a ballpark idea of how teams see this draft. In terms of true first-round grades, yes, there are 31 players in the first round. The Dolphins forfeited their first-round pick due to integrity of the game violation. But the fact of the matter is there are going to be 31 picks. Not every team, by the way, owns a first-round pick, but there are going to be 31 picks. But they're usually, when we talk about grades, they're typically are between 12 and 15 players are graded first round, and then the rest are high-end second-round picks. What happens is that's when you see teams try to trade down. Once you get to 16 and 17, unless somebody drops to 11 or 12, or in the case where Devontae Smith was there, the Eagles knew that their tier was dropping for first-round grades, so they traded up for Devontae Smith 2 years ago, as you know. Was with Dallas, I think. And then they, above the Giants, as you know, that's when Dave Gettleman wanted Devontae Smith. Eagles got him. And that's what you do. You go by what your board says. And then you go from there. So who are those players? Well, we've got two quarterbacks who got true first-round grades. Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. Running back Bijan Robinson, obviously, who's one of the elite players for the draft. Now, there are not a lot of elite players, by the way. We're going to give you the elite player list. Probably on Monday morning show, Mike, we're going to drop that list. But Bijan's elite, Jackson Smith and Jigba. I know people can't understand, like, how's this guy a first-round pick after last year? He barely played, bad hamstring issue. His tape in 2021 was special. Peter Skoronski is the only first-round graded lineman, though we might see 3 or 4 drafted. The only true first-round grade is Peter Skoronski, who I'm told will play guard at the next level. He won't be able to play left tackle. Jalen Carter, you know how great he is. He just has to get through the character stuff. The pass rushers, whether they're DNs or stand-up outside linebackers, Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Lucas Van Ness, Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy, as we discussed on our Thursday show. The reason why he didn't start is upperclassmen start over juniors and sophomores. That's just the way that Kirk Ferentz does it. I know, and I get it. People don't. It's bother. You know, there's some really fair comments on our message board on for the YouTube people. They're very fair comments. I just can't get over it. And some say it's stupid. I don't disagree with you. Quick story. Joe Flacco told me many years ago the reason why he transferred from Delaware to Delaware from Pitt is because whoever the head coach was, it might have been Dave Wanstead, I don't remember, but his head coach then said, "You're not going to start here." Tyler Palco is because of recruiting. He's from Pittsburgh. Joe is not. Joe's from South Jersey. As soon as Joe was told that, he said, like, "Oh, okay, I get it. I'm not mad. I'm just going to transfer." So he transferred. Mm-hmm. So, again, there are reasons why coaches do this. Also, the other first-round graded pass rushers, Nolan Smith of Georgia, Miles Murphy from Clemson, and then also two corners, Devin Witherspoon and Christian Gonzalez.
It's an interesting list, and one of the things that we want to go into is you mentioned, obviously, one Bijan Robinson. He seems to be the wild card in this draft, Adam Caplan. I know Daniel Jeremiah said, for me, the wild card are Robinson and Richardson. You're either pro Robinson or you don't take them in the first round at all. Robinson is more because of his position. You mentioned the Eagles went off their board a couple times. Well, when they pick at number 10, won't he be the highest player ranked on their board?
He should be if he's there. Yeah, Mike, he should be, and they had him in for a visit. He's a really good kid. He's got positional versatility in terms of flexing him out at running back. If you watch the Texas tape, you see him line up in the slot. He's really smooth. But he's not Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best receiving backs in college football history. But Bijan is so special, though. He's definitely one of the elite players. So, look, if you look at it, Mike, at the top 10, who are the guys who are going to be there? Potentially, Bijan Robinson, Peter Skoronski, Jalen Carter, again, with the character stuff. Lucas Van Ness, who the Eagles had in for a visit, we're told they really like him. Tyree Wilson, Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy, Devin Witherspoon, and Christian Gonzalez. Now, I know there's some people say there's no way they'll take a corner. They probably won't, because if they drafted Witherspoon or Gonzalez, they wouldn't be starting this year, and you don't really want to. In fact, by contract structure, it's a pretty good bet that Slay and Bradbury will be the starters in 24, but and a pretty good bet 25, one or both won't be there. But they're almost certain to start for 2 more years. So the argument against drafting Witherspoon and Gonzalez, if they're there at 10, though they'd be good values, particularly Gonzalez, they're going to sit, because your third outside corner, Mike, he just subs in. Unless somebody gets hurt, he doesn't play very much. So to me, it comes down to this. I know that drafting guards in particularly the first half of the first round, it's rare. It's not impossible. There's a Hall of Famer, Steve Hutchinson, and there are the other guards who've gone in the upper half and done very well at guard, but not a lot of them. The guys who've done, let's put it this way, the guys who are at guard who get drafted in the first half generally turn out to be good players, but you just don't do it because it's not a high-end position like right tackle is verboten to draft right tackles early. Not anymore. Teams will do it. Now, when the Eagles drafted Lane Johnson, Mike, as you know, and people forget this, he was drafted to be Jason Peters' eventual replacement. Jason kept coming back. He wasn't retiring. And Lane told the Eagles, listen, just let me stay at right tackle. I'm comfortable there, and that was a great decision. So, but that's my group of players who one of those guys will be on the board there, probably more than one, in fact, probably 4 or 5 of them. And it comes down to positional value. And we know edge rusher, whether it's a hand-down guy or stand-up pass rusher, those Eagles always value them.
Yeah, and, Robinson, obviously, because of the position he plays, you mentioned Skoronski. I brought this up yesterday. If he plays right guard, do you draft a guard in the top 10 of the draft? Yeah. I think that's and then, is he automatically plug and play the starter there over Cam Jurgens? Do they have some sort of competition at training camp?
I'm going to take the latter, Mike. That's why we put him on our list, because right guard is completely open. Right now, if they don't draft anyone or don't sign a veteran, 2 guys will compete for it. Jack Driscoll, who they would tell you he's a much better backup. A backup right tackle, can play left in a pinch, but he's really a backup right tackle guard. Our sources tell us he's way better, Jack Driscoll, at right tackle. Well, he's not going to replace Lane Johnson. We know that. Oh, by the way, Driscoll's on the final year of his rookie deal. But it would be a plug and play. Skoronski would start day one. They may say there'll be a competition, but in reality, there wouldn't be. If you're taking guard at 10, that guy has to start. And the reason why he's going to play guard at the next level, and offensive line coaches I've spoken to say that, arms are too short. He's not as athletic as you want as a left tackle. And obviously, if the Eagles drafted him, he would never play left or right tackle if the guys are healthy, because they have them.
Yeah.
So, Skoronski would be an interesting guy because, again, he's definitely got first-round grades, and he's a good football player.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4 from Inside the Birds podcast. Robinson, just if you could explain to the listeners why it's unlikely that he would be the pick at 10, even though he may be the highest-rated player on their board. And we have heard, hey, they'll never draft a running back. Well, a couple of years ago, it's been documented that they would have taken Christian McCaffrey. So why not Robinson in this spot if he's there?
Yeah, I actually was the first one to put that out. I actually did it with Jeff in local radio. I put that out when he asked me. He put the gun in my head, said, all right, who's it going to be? And I'm like, I'm probably going to be wrong about this, and people will skewer me. But I'm going to tell you that I've heard a very good source. It's going to be Christian McCaffrey if he's there. And, of course, that there was no way he was going to be there. And unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, they drafted Derek Barnett. But you remember who the Eagles fans wanted? And they wanted this guy badly. Do you remember?
Nope. If you say it, I'll probably recall.
Reuben Foster.
Okay, yep, the linebacker.
Yeah, and he had awful off-the-field stuff. They just did a lot of homework on him, but they were never going to draft him. They were not comfortable with him. But so Bijan Robinson, Mike, here's the thing. He's one of the highest-graded running backs in the last 10 years. He's a special football player. The Eagles have not drafted a true running back, Mike, in 40 years in the first round. Michael Haddix. In fact, I know his son, Michael Haddix Jr., who's actually a former college basketball player and is an entrepreneur. But it's just, Mike, I don't see it because they don't look at it that. In fact, they devalue this position so badly. They made, I don't know that they made an offer to Miles Sanders, but I know they made very little effort to re-sign Miles Sanders, who, by the way, is coming off a career year. That tells you a lot, Mike. Now, I get it, Bijan Robinson's better. I'm not arguing that. But their history would show you they don't value the position. I do like some of the comments we got on our YouTube message board. I think they're very fair and really smart. If you take Robinson, Mike, is this the best offense in football?
Fair question with this offensive line. I mean, that's the thing.
That's it.
You add this up. Now, yesterday, Adam, Andrew, he believes that Gibbs is actually the better player and fit. I don't know where you think.
Well, he's so – okay, I'll say this about Jahmyr Gibbs. He's our friend John DiFilippo, the former Eagles quarterbacks coach, uses this thing for guys who are explosive. This kid's got extreme juice, like unbelievable jets like you haven't seen. Well, Bijan's a better football player. But at 30, and let's go over to 30, Mike, the kind of players that we're projecting to potentially be there. Now, I don't think Zay Flowers will make it. He's going to go somewhere between 15 and 30. Probably won't make it. He's a slot. The receivers coaches I talked to, they don't want him playing the Z position. They know he could do it. They could be a dynamic slot, and boy, the Eagles need a slot. Kalijah Kancey, who Greg Cosell loves. Breesy, the D tackle from Clemson, who's a stud talent. He's done well coming back from the ACL injury. One of these three corners should be available: Deonte Banks, Cam Smith, or Emmanuel Forbes. And then Brian Branch is going to go probably between 20 and 30, Mike. And Sidney Brown, who I love, he's going to be there out of Illinois. Now, he's got second-round grades from talking to teams. This kid is really good out of Illinois, so one of those players would be there, Mike. And, again, I can't wait to see, because people are, like, saying, another good question we got, like, would the Eagles trade up for any of these guys? Well, it becomes hard because you only have 6 picks.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, and they have needs, mostly on defense.
What about trade back from 10? Are there guys they would like, but not at 10, but like 15?
Nolan Smith, edge rusher, he's a little smaller from Georgia. Joey Porter Jr., Cam Smith, another corner. This is where I think the discussion starts with Cam Smith. Joey Porter Jr. is going to go mid-first round most likely.
Mm-hmm.
He's got length. Now, you got to play a lot of man defense, and here's the thing. We don't know with Sean Desai what the man-zone ratio is going to be. That we don't know yet. We're looking into it. But that's a big key, because you don't want Joey Porter. You want him in press position. You want to play more man. So that's the argument against Porter if you're not going to play a lot of man.
Yeah, and then of course at 30, you mentioned the lack of pick. That's a good spot for teams that want to get back in, maybe get a quarterback if one falls to that spot. They've done that before, so keep an eye on the possibility of that. But a good look at the possibilities at 10, 30, and other for this team, as we are less than 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. You can check out the Inside the Birds podcast on all podcasting platforms, and of course on the YouTube channel, and right here on Football at 4 on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Adam, 1 o'clock Sixers tomorrow, man. Get ready.
Let's go, man. Can't wait. They may lose a game in the series, but they will definitely win that series.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, man.
Adam Caplan, everybody, here on the Sports Bash from Inside the Birds and the Inside the Birds podcast. Of course, every day for Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill.